French model 1866 Chassepot Needle Fire Bolt Action Rifle. This is another interesting gun from its place in time and history, both military and firearms development. The gun was designed by a man named Anthony Alphonse Chassepot, who in about 1857 started designing breech-loading rifles. And there's not much detail in the history, but he designed this gun and the French military liked it and adopted it. Kind of like it's the predecessor to a more modern bolt-action gun. You see this gun, you have to remember, at the time you had muzzle-loading muskets, percussion muskets. So breech-loading guns, there's a bunch of different designs. The Europeans all liked the single bolt action. And where I say this is the predecessor, or how firearm technology evolved, is it uses first of all, it uses a self-contained paper cartridge. What you do is you roll up a tube of paper, you take a musket cap, okay, and you turn the musket cap upside down. So the part that you strike with a hammer is inside the tube, and the open part is towards the base, attached to a piece of cardboard. The tube is then sealed with this upside down musket cap in it. The paper tube is filled with black powder. The black powder is compressed. Now you got a paper cylinder with a compressed black powder charge. A lead bullet is placed, and then a paper patch is wrapped around the bullet and the tube, and then secured with twine. So basically what you have is a paper self-contained cartridge with a priming charge inside of it. Kind of, you know, they used the material at the time or the ideas, and it was a self-contained paper cartridge. Now, how it works, and what's different about this one, the needle fire, is you have to cock this gun. See, this bolt will not open. You have to cock it and retract the needle from the bolt. The reason for this also is if you had a misfire and the needle is in the cartridge, if you had like a modern gun where when you cammed the bolt over and opened the lugs and pulled the needle out, the cartridge may go off. So this, one thing about this gun, you must manually pull this back and cock the piece or it will not open. So then when you open it, you put your cartridge in, close the bolt, and the unique feature of this gun, there are several different designs of needle fire guns. The Germans had the Dreiser, and the only other one I know of is the Italians had a type of needle fire gun. I don't know if there were more of them or not. They really didn't stay, well, the German one was developed, it stayed in service for a while. But the unique and innovative thing about the French model is there is a rubber gasket in the bolt that when the gun is fired, it compresses this rubber seal and seals the chamber. That was kind of unique, and it was highly effective and made a pretty good effective rifle and cartridge combination. I will go into all this in detail as we go along here. So, take a break for a second. Take a closer look at the gun first. Then I have some diagrams and stuff that will give you a better understanding. It's a pretty basic gun. You have the receiver. Again, this is our famous split bridge where the bolt, basically the whole locking mechanism is the bolt, this section of the bolt here in the handle is what locks your action up. Okay, like I said, there's this cocking piece that must be pulled back and cocked to withdraw the needle. The reason for that is a safety reason. And we'll open her up again. And here you can see this is the rubber stopper or gasket. that when the cartridge goes off, this compresses this and seals the inside of the chamber. The needle protrudes from this little spout or nose here into the base of the cartridge. Now we'll take a closer look at some of the markings. This particular rifle was manufactured in 1872. This is the rear sight, which I don't know much about it. Let's see, okay. You have your different notches. I don't know if the graduations are still visible on this or not. Ah, here we go. That must be your battle sight, and then there's your elevation sights with your numbers and that there. Okay, so basically leaf sights. Come down with the barrel, and the French guns use like a sword bayonet, so you have this huge bayonet lug type of deal that's soldered on to the barrel, and that's where them big brass handled sword bayonets would be attached. So it's basically a simple basic gun. These guns, I believe, were left in what they called armory bright. There was no bluing or anything. They were just polished and left with the bare metal. You got two barrel bands, clean and rod, the bayonet lug. Pretty much a basic, simple gun. You have your stock cartouche, which is kind of standard on all the French guns. You have your little thing in the plug, holy plug or whatever they call it. I'm not familiar, but this was on French guns for quite some, first few early models. I don't know if the Lebels still had these or not, but on these and the Gras and their muskets had this in there. I believe that's some sort of a stamping or mark in there. This ain't too bad. This rifle's all matching too. I don't think they had any. Maybe there's a number under there if I clean that, but it's been pitted and corroded. Might be a unit marking there. Could be obliterated. We'll go to the other side and look. And there you have your model marking and your manufacturer, the armory, and there's a serial number on the barrel, proof marks, another little mark there. French guns, over the years accumulate. When we take this apart, we'll see, I think underneath the barrel there's a whole bunch of different things. Take another look at the sight there. Okay, and that's your bolt. And that, so like I said, pretty basic gun. Now we'll go to how it works and take a look. I got some diagrams. We can take a look at the action like a cutaway and get an idea what we got going on here. Alright, here's a cutaway diagram of this rifle. You can see the trigger mechanism and that. It's all pretty simple. You pull the cocking piece back. There's a sear in here. Spring-loaded thing with the bolt. And it goes through and there's the needle. Now the unique thing about this too is if you look at this chamber, the cartridge goes in here and that's where the end of that bolt is. There's a space behind there. Okay, basically your paper cartridge would sit up in there, and when that needle penetrates and sets it off, it compresses a flange down onto this. This is where the gasket is, the rubber gasket, seals the chamber, and there's like a space behind there, and we all know you're really not supposed to have any air space. This creates some sort of vacuum that, or whatever the force is when the cartridge detonates, pushes the cap and all the stuff behind the bullet out the bore, goes flying out the bore with it. And when people replicate, it's a picture of the cartridge itself, the paper cartridge with the patch on there. And see, that shows you where this cutaway kind of shows where that cap is, the powder charge, and that's the bullet. And there's a paper patch around the bullet. Oh, and there's your giant sword bayonet. I don't have one. I'm not going to invest a few $100s to get it, just to say I have it. Okay, as for cartridges, say you want to shoot this thing. Fortunately, there's been enough diagrams and information that have survived, and people have placed, you know, I guess this page here is it's instructions on how to make the cartridge. And it gives you the exact dimensions of everything that you have to make. The paper patch, the tube, there's a base. It explains the cap, cardboard, the little things on the ends. There's another wad or gasket. And it does give you information on how to assemble the cartridge. One thing that's great that survived is there's actual dimensions of the bullet itself. So through this, people have went and contacted custom bullet mold makers, and we can get molds made to cast bullets to the exact specifications from these documents, which is pretty cool and helps out a lot. All right, now we'll take a look at the components for making a cartridge. As you know, the restrictive gun laws in Europe, a lot of people still, the only guns they can own are these old antiques, and the ones that are in good condition, they still actively shoot them. So there was a guy in Sweden who online had different components that you could buy from him to reload this, and there's a few videos on YouTube of guys in Europe doing this. All right, basically what he had is he'd sell this gummed paper. Now this isn't exactly like the instructions. There is a guy that uses that instruction sheet and makes a regulation cartridge. Most people come across with something a little bit different that works. And when I get into the reloading, we'll go over that, but I'll just give you a basic explanation. What he has is he had this brown gum paper. You can, roll this, lick this, and then it'll stick. It's gummed. And he just gives you a tool, which is just a tube with a shoulder and a hole drilled in the end. And what you would do is you would wrap or roll this paper into a tube. I haven't done this. It's going to be a thrill for me. Basically, you come up with something like that, and these little edges are to be folded over. Now, the other thing is, here's our primer, okay? Because he'd sell you the tubes and that, and what he'd do is once he puts it all together, he had another thing he put on there. He used to sell you all the components. Once you roll your tube and you got them little fingers on the end there, you take a percussion cap and you glue it to a piece of cardboard, okay, like I said, upside down, and you put a little bit of powder inside the cap. Then the cap will go in here with the tube rolled over, like I had it. Let me get this back. This would be rolled around, and then these little edges, which you'd lick these and fold this over here on top of the tube, and then he'd punch out another little piece of paper to just seal that end up, and that's glued on or whatever. So now you got your tube with your percussion cap in the base. You'd fill it up with powder, And the one thing I've noticed people do when I'm reloading is you have to compress the black powder. You got to compress it down in there. And you either have to make your own tools or come up with a way of doing that. I'm going to work on that. And then, he did send me a sample bullet. He was selling the bullets. I don't know if he does anymore or not. But the bullet itself, basically it's hard to see. You got one large band in the back. This is tapered to another band here. Okay, so you have a tapered bullet which kind of fits into that chamber. You know, when you put it in there, there's a taper in the chamber, that all matches up. And this piece is what kind of engages the rifling and also is what's in the tube. So once you had your tube put together, you get that bullet in there, kind of like that. It goes in a ways. And then you got that other paper patch that you would wrap around, and basically that would go around the bullet and kind of make a skirt over this. Then as per the instructions in the old days, you take a piece of twine at this junction with the other, I don't have the paper patch, and then tie it together with string. And then you have, like in the little photographs, that's your self-contained cartridge. Okay, and then this is what you would load into the gun. You know, you got it's basically a paper case bullet with the priming charge in the end. Kind of the predecessor to fixed rifle ammunition. But like I said, it's a transitional thing, and that's the whole principle of how it works. And the French, because I think of their colonies in the Pacific and Asia, the French always had access to rubber. So that's where that rubber seal comes into play also. So basically that's how the gun works. We'll take another look at it again. One thing I like to mention, the rubber seals do wear out in use. And generally, you won't find them in the gun. When I purchased this gun, this was not in there. I bought a couple of these, again, from the guy in Sweden. He didn't have them for like over a year, and he had some, and I ordered a few. They were pretty reasonable. And then I guess he stopped selling all the Chassepot components, papers, everything. So that's some of the stuff I got from him. Strange story, this is, my wife bought me this rifle as a birthday gift for my 50th birthday. I'm going to be 55 this year, and I haven't really got around to doing any work with it, I researched it and that, but I haven't really gone out and put forth an effort to actually fire it. And she kind of mentioned that to me, so I'm kind of getting off my butt and getting things going here. So like I said, and another thing, probably the problem they have with these rubber gaskets is they'll swell up in the gun. If there's oil in that in there, if you close the bolt and leave them in there over a period of time, they have a tendency to swell up and then the gun's jammed and you're kind of screwed. So you kind of don't want to leave them in there. I put it in there for this video, and I'm probably going to take it out and just leave it as I got the gun without the gasket in there. And I'll kind of go into investigating how to get these or what you can use to make them. There's a lot of information online from guys from France. The only problem is all their web pages are written in French. And one fella, he gives you the diameters to get a series of just rubber faucet washers for the old faucets. And he stacks like 3 or 4 of them on there and uses those. So there's workarounds for this that ain't going to cost you an arm and a leg. As for making the ammo, most guys use that basic paper type thing, and there's one guy that actually tries to make the cartridge as per the sheet, as that diagram I showed you. And that's a little bit different. A different way of making it. And he wraps it in gauze. And he's done a lot of work. He didn't make a video, but he posted a lot of pictures of what he did. It's pretty interesting. And we'll get in more of that. Also with this gun, I've noticed here too, the spring is kind of weak. And the fellas that do shoot them warn you, the first thing to do is replace the mainspring, because if it's weak, you'll get misfires of the needle not traveling fast enough. I believe if I pull the spring out and measure it, I can contact Wolf and get something that's close that'll fit in there. Because I guess Wolf springs, they make all kinds of sizes and that, and you just give them the dimensions and they'll get you something close. Because other than that, you have to contact some company in France that, you know, a lot of guys try doing that. I don't think they savvy English too well. But I'm going to do some more videos, you know. We're going to do one where we take it apart, do a technical inspection, slug the bore, come up with what kind of bullet we're going to use and how and why and the reason behind it. And I'll show you how to totally disassemble this, check it out, probably take a chamber casting, get a bullet mold made, and then have at it trying to make some cartridges. I'm probably going to have to manufacture some tools myself, make some tools to reload these cartridges. And also the one guy shows you how to make a needle. If you got a bad needle or short needle, he shows you how to make a needle basically on a drill press. So needles may be another topic or project to make. But that's about it. This is a pretty interesting gun. The French did make a lot of these. They didn't stay in service long. They were eclipsed with cartridge rifles, which the Gauss rifle is basically the rifle redesigned, this rifle redesigned to fire a brass case cartridge. And we'll look at them side by side in another video when we do it on that other rifle, the one that came after this. And that's about it. It's very interesting. You can find these guns. They made a lot of them. They didn't have a long service life. You can find these around. You're not going to trip over them, but you can get these, and like this one's got a mint bore. The one thing unusual about the gun is there's a stamping here. Let me go around on the other side. Looks like some sort of company name. So this probably, all these years could have been sold as surplus or something. And looks like a rack number or something down there. These guns were bought, traded, sold off, and reused, and they find them still in Afghanistan and everything else. And they were modified. A bunch of them got converted to fire cartridge, brass cartridges. And the Germans captured some in the Franco-Prussian War and converted them and used them for years to fire cartridges out of them, brass case cartridges. So, pretty neat gun. And we're going to do some more videos on it, and I'll take you through the whole thing, and hopefully within a few months here we'll be out shooting it.